Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the fate of Boracay Island hangs in the balance.
The Office of the President, through the Executive Secretary's office, have requested the three agencies to submit a more detailed memo on the justification.
As President Rodrigo Duterte weighs in on its economic impact. Also, the Budget Department seeks the passage of a national ID system. The country moves to build. Government spending is up, but can we recover from debt?
Not many countries can boast of that kind of debt to GDP ratio. Okay?
Budget Secretary Ben Diokno joins us live. And later, meet the first polar bear to be born in the UK in 25 years. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. The government's Build program has taken off, and the Budget Department boasts of a sustained and strong government spending due to the Duterte administration's infrastructure projects. But the department also vows to accelerate the spending even further to help economic growth. The 2018 budget will also allow the fulfillment of President Rodrigo Duterte's promises to Filipinos, among them universal access to tertiary education, free irrigation services for farmers, salary increase of the military and uniformed personnel, and of course, the rehabilitation of Marawi City. On the closure of Boracay, the Trade Department is also set to submit a separate memorandum suggesting that the closure be done in phases. Just what is the economic impact of the closure of Boracay? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Budget Secretary Ben Diokno. Secretary, good to see you again.
Hi, good morning. Pinky.
Wasn't it your birthday recently?
March 31st. Yes.
Happy birthday, belated, sir.
Thank you.
I heard from someone it was your birthday. Happy birthday to you, sir. So we're looking at a budget. Let's start again with a budget, sir, that's 3.78 trillion for 2018. And my research was telling me that 80% of that budget has already been allotted or released, sir. What is the right word?
Because we changed the way we released the budget now. Previously, after 1 year preparation deliberation in Congress, you cannot spend until you have another document. We did away with that. Now it's the budget, which is the release document. So that's why it's kind of fast. 80%.
Mabilis yun.
Mabilis yun.
And that's unprecedented, huh?
Yes, that's a reform which is going to be part of what we call budget reform bill. We are going to institutionalize this. We're doing this without any law, but we hope that by the passage of the budget reform bill, it will be institutionalized.
I was going to talk about that, but since you mentioned it, sir, that budget reform bill, I think it's already on third and final reading at the House of Representatives,
It's
sir?
done. It's done. 158 in favor, 8 against, 1 abstention.
But what about the Senate?
The Senate, Senator Lauren Legarda sponsored it before the break, and we're optimistic that by around May or June it will be approved just in time for the President's State of the Nation address.
Sir, what can we expect from a budget reform bill?
Well, it will institutionalize the reforms that we're doing right now. It's exactly that. Number one, we are changing the budget system from 2-year obligation-based to 1-year cash-based. So that puts pressure on the line departments to execute the projects as soon as possible.
I see. And of course, I guess transparency, sir?
Yes, transparency is there. Also, we define savings in a way that the Deng Baksha controversy won't happen, or even the disbursement acceleration program won't happen.
Well, yeah.
So it's tighter, and it's consistent with the Constitution.
But when you talk about the Deng Baksha, sir, I mean, just to do a contrast on that, that was budget that was released very fast, which to some senators and lawmakers are saying that's not the norm.
Yeah, that's not the norm. In fact, it was passed on the eve of the last day of the year.
Yeah.
And it was the document was supposed to expire on December 31 of the same year. So I'm really fascinated by the speed
of by which it was released. All right, so 3.78 trillion. There are, of course, recipients of this. I don't think that's changed from the past budgets. You still have health as the biggest recipient.
No, it's education.
Sorry, education,
Number
yes.
one, yeah. Yeah, we have a medium-term expenditure program, and it won't change. The priorities won't change. Two major items, infrastructure and investment in human capital, meaning education, health, and social welfare.
Right.
Okay?
And we are talking about, of course, the flagship program of the Duterte administration, which is the Build, Build, Build program. Sir, with the 2018 3.78 trillion peso budget, how much of that is actually going to the Build, Build, Build?
It's about 1.07 trillion.
One-third.
One-third, almost more. And the background here is this. Over the last 50 years, we spent only 2.6% of our GDP, or the size of the economy, for infrastructure. 2.6. Yeah. Other countries are spending 5, 7%, even 10%. Okay, so we really suffer in terms of infrastructure. So that's why we complain about traffic, congestion, etc. Now, on Duterte's first year, we already increased it to 5.4. Double, and then this year 6.1% of GDP.
Pataas ng pataas. Well, di ba it's a 7 trillion peso budget, sir, until 2022?
In totality, we intend to spend something like 8 to 9 trillion pesos, or about 160 to 180 billion dollars for infrastructure.
Yeah. And we're talking about projects, flagship projects of the Duterte administration. I guess there are numbers, sir. There are airports, there are railways, there's bus rapid transits, there's bridges and roads, and even seaports. So if I were to ask you now, sir, what can we see in the short term na magagawa po in terms of infrastructure?
Yeah, we're completing some of the projects which were started by the previous administration. So by June, we'll complete Panglao International Airport. Also, the second international airport in Cebu will be completed. And then Mark is doing a lot of roads. If you travel nowadays, you'll encounter a lot of traffic, and that's the consequence of a lot of construction going on. Okay.
And aside from the two airports, sir, what about seaports? That's in the offing as well, huh?
I'm sure Togade talked about that when he was here. But there are seaports, yes. But mostly airports. And we plan to construct something like, if I remember right, 13 bridges across Pasig River. Two big ones to be donated by China, the one in Intramuros, Binondo, the other one in Makati. And then Mark is doing the Bonifacio bridge right now, and then we plan to do other bridges to ease the traffic, both on the EDSA and the C5.
To have alternate routes, I guess, no, sir?
Yeah, sure.
And with that they're saying that you have a dream of 9 trillion peso budget for infrastructure, build for the next, how many more years, sir? I think
5 years.
There's five more years? Five ba? Four na lang ata. 2 years na.
4.5.
All right, so I guess it begs the question again, sir, that some people are raising the alarm bells on this, or the red flag, because of the kind of debt that the Philippines may incur.
You'll be surprised that we're managing our financial side very well, so that we expect the debt to GDP ratio, that's the debt divided by the size of the economy, that's the important metric. Okay? It's not the total debt itself. It's the size of the economy, and we compare the debt. That's around 40% right now. 40%. Given that, we should be the envy of other countries in the world. Japan, 250% debt to GDP ratio.
Right.
US more than 100. China around 200. So 40% is manageable, and it's going to decline over time to around 37.8%.
It's like you're saying that hindi ho tayo malulubog sa utang.
Hindi tayo malulubog, definitely.
Even when the president is not the president anymore.
Yes,
even with the next administration.
Because we're very careful in choosing the projects. You know, that the rule there is what we call the golden rule. The golden rule is you invest if the return on your investment is higher than the cost of borrowing money. And we borrow at very low rates right now. I have not seen this kind of interest rates in my lifetime. Yeah, in fact, the subway, it's 0.5 1%.
The subway that will traverse EDSA, sir?
25 kilometer. Not EDSA, it will pass through a different
All
route.
over?
Yes, so that's 0.1%, okay?
That's JICA.
Why not borrow, okay? So
Yeah, but you're just talking about one, sir. One
no,
of the many
we
projects.
in fact we reduced the cutoff rate. Previously, the cutoff rate is 15%. We will finance only projects which will give a return on investment of 15%.
Okay.
Now we reduce it to 10 because the borrowing rate is very low. Okay.
All right, we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines coming up. Will the national ID system be implemented soon? Budget Secretary Ben Diokno will still be with us. And later, see the first polar bear born in the United Kingdom in 2.5 decades. That's for today's In Focus. I see. Okay. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today is Secretary Ben Diokno. Sir, I'm very interested. There was something I read which probably not a lot of people would know about, and I don't know if that's your pet project, but aside from build, there is green. Tama ho ba? A green project.
Yeah, this is a unique assistance to cities. Because last year we gave assistance to municipalities and provinces. This is on top of the internal revenue allotment. Now, this year there was a clamor from cities, why not us also? So we agreed. For 2018, in fact, we initially proposed 5 billion. And then because of this free tuition, etc., there are other demands, nakat siya into 2.5 billion. So there is a program now in the budget called well, I call it green, to be complementary to
the build. Yeah.
And this is supposed to help the 145 cities provide open spaces for the urban dwellers. Do you know that 50% of the Filipinos are urban dwellers?
Okay.
And it's going to increase to about 65% by 2050. So we really need to give them some open space.
Is there open spaces still, sir, available?
You'll be surprised. There's some.
I will be surprised.
Yeah, but open space does not really necessarily mean like
a park.
A park in New York Park. Right?
Yeah.
It could be a linear park, okay? Or it could be a bike lane.
Yes.
So there are many such projects that we are actually entertaining at the moment. And we have met with them twice already, the city mayors, 145 of them, and they are proposing projects. In fact, they have submitted already some
Paano yun, Secretary? Kanya-kanyang gawa ho ba yun?
Yes,
Okay.
we gave them a menu, And then they will come up. It's kind of a competition among them, who can come up with
The best
projects.
yeah.
And we are co-financing this with, say, there's a greening program under DNR.
Okay.
And then we have this People Survival Fund under DBP. And of course, they can borrow money with the Municipal Development Fund Office.
Yeah.
But there's a fixed amount, 2.5 billion.
But how do you distribute that 2 billion pesos among the 145 cities?
Well, it's based on population and land area. So there's a formula. Walang palakasan. So there's a
Kung
formula.
anong mas malaki at anong mas maraming tao, yun ang mas malaki ang makukuha.
Right, and it's in the budget. It's transparent, so they know exactly how much money is allotted for
Could you give us an example, sir? Maybe Makati or Quezon City?
I forgot, but there are some cities like Navotas. They will get some fixed amount. Davao, of course, because of big land area, it will get a big amount. Manila, Quezon City is also a big recipient.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but they have to come up with a green project.
A project, yeah. So it could be a park, it could be an alley.
All right.
Ganun ho ba?
Could be improvement of an existing park, or, for example, Bigan is known for its heritage park, right? And Davao also has a People's Park. So it could be like that.
Okay.
There are three examples that we usually cite: the Esplanade in Iloilo, and the People's Park in Davao, and also Bigan. Okay. So, but we are coming up with some proposals from them, and we will launch it maybe sometime in July.
That should be interesting, and I think it's about time, sir, that we look at a green project.
This is a
as well.
small. To me, it will start small, and if it's successful, I think we can. We really need to address the majority of our people who live in urban centers. Okay.
And it takes away, every time somebody actually goes abroad, sir, yun isa yung mga napapansin
yes,
there's so much space or green space around them. All right, national ID system, I believe there's 2 billion peso budget for
Yeah,
this
we
as well,
already
sir.
anticipated the need for a national ID system. In fact, this goes back as far as President Ramos, I think, and so we put 2 billion in the budget. This is part of the comprehensive tax reform program, because we want to make sure that the leakages from the social services that we provide is, number one, stop, and also there's really a need for a national ID system, because when you, for example, when you open a bank account, they ask for 2 IDs, right? And they can't even produce
government-issued IDs.
Government-issued ID. So this is for them.
When will this happen? Because I have a lot of questions because of also possible, problems on siguro yung security ng tao, protection of the person, hindi ho ba? Because when that is debated, even before sa Congress, sir, pumapasok ho kasi yung it might be too intrusive. Parang ganun po.
No, we'll make sure that it will not violate that we address such fears. No?
How?
This will be similar to what they did in India, where they have what is called a foundational ID. Just the information are very basic, and so we don't ask for your phone there. It's just your birth.
What will be asked? What's the data that will be collected,
your
sir?
sex, your birthday, and
Name, sex,
names.
birthday.
That's all. That's more or less.
And this ID, sir, will be...
It will be random. In fact, if you are on a queue, the ID number of the person in front of you is much different from your number.
Oh, it's not going to be systematically like orderly from 1 to 1,000.
That is a tool to preserve the identity.
I see.
So nobody can steal your identity.
And when we have when we have this national ID, sir, will it be just the ID to use? Ganun ho ba?
No, it can be used with your driver's license and your passport. Okay. So that's only 3 IDs are necessary.
So the national ID, the passport, and the license, because some people, sir, don't have a license.
Yes.
Diba? So yun po, when will this be implemented, sir?
We have sent a mission to Japan, to India, and it's ongoing now. I think it will be started maybe third quarter of this year.
So by third quarter, some people will start getting this national ID. Tama ba?
We have to hire a third party
Okay.
to take to it's also biometrics, by the way.
yes, of
so your
course.
face, your fingerprints.
Yeah.
etc.
Aside from your name, sex, and birthday.
Even if
yeah.
you forgot your ID, or if you can remember the number, and put it in the computer, and with your biometrics, you'll get your identification.
I read something like it's going to be like a PhilSys number. Tama ho ba yun? A PhilSys number?
That's yes, it's called. That's the Senate version. By the way, that bill has already been passed by the Senate and the House, and so they're going into conference committee.
Yeah.
And so, but
By
with
cam.
or without the law, we'll go ahead with it.
So kahit na hindi po mapasa ng both houses of Congress just yet on BICAM, you're going to, the government will implement this.
It's already ongoing.
Yeah, because there's a 2 billion peso budget allotted for this. Sir, what about Boracay? A lot of people, of course, mixed feelings, sir. It's good. Somebody finally is looking at Boracay and looking at the long term. However, what about the economic impact, sir? How many tourists go to Boracay yearly? Is it 3 million?
Yeah. Good you asked that question. I got a text from Secretary Dominguez and, of course, Secretary Pernia asking for the economic impact of the closure. There are two modalities. So one is gradual, meaning maybe short term, 3 months, and then. But my observation is this: you got to take a long-term view. Meaning, we need to fix that. Okay, so how do we fix it? We cannot do it slowly. Okay. Secondly, you have to look at what we call in economics general equilibrium. When you close that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you lose all the tourists. They will go to other places like Bohol or Siargao or Cebu or Palawan, right? So that's a general equilibrium impact.
But you don't expect all the 3 million,
Not
sir,
all.
to be moving to other. Yeah.
Right, not all. So we already have a preliminary study on the economic impact
Which is?
of that. Well,
Can you share a little insight, sir?
It's not that scary.
Really?
Because of the general equilibrium impact, plus also the long-term impact of that. Can you imagine if we continue with this mess in Boracay? Maybe in a few years, that will be gone.
But I don't think it's a question, sir, of anybody wanting to fix Boracay. I think everybody is wanting to fix it. It's the manner by which it will be done is the question. Are you for a complete shutdown for 6 months, or are you by stages? What is best in terms of an economic impact, sir?
That's why we're doing some sensitivity analysis on how to do it. It could be gradual, it could be...
But you should have been there from the very beginning together with the 3 other agencies, sir, because they already recommended.
Yeah, there's a recommendation by DNR and DILG, but there's also a recommendation from DTI. And we're coming up with the economic impact, the economic managers.
Which is very important, sir. Did they forget the economic impact? Did they forget the
they
DBM
look
here?
at the employment effect.
Exactly.
Right? And so we look at that in the study.
And I wanted to ask you that clearly, sir, because when you are employed there, I don't know how many, do you have a number of how many people are employed in Boracay?
I don't have the numbers right now, but it could be substantial. But
So-
as I said, in a general equilibrium framework, many of those could be relocated somewhere else.
But that's in a perfect world, sir. But if you tell these employees, let's say ako po yun, ang nagtatrabaho doon, next month isasara na kayo, isn't that quite irresponsible for government?
But many people there are really not from many people working in the hotels there, for example, are not from there.
But sir, sorry, it doesn't matter, sir. They're still going to lose their jobs.
But they can move to Cebu or Bohol.
But they need to look for a job, sir.
That's the job of Bewat.
That's not you. Well, I understand that, sir. I mean,
sure.
I'm just thinking about employment, even for myself.
In fact, the Dole Secretary is thinking of providing temporary employment for 2 months. I think
I
they
see.
will be fully employed.
So what is your stand? Is your stand phases, sir, or total shutdown?
Do it at the off-peak period, and then maybe gradually, and then before doing that, you have to have a plan already. Which is ready, implementation ready.
So hindi ho kayo, you're not for the April shutdown. That's clear.
Maybe not. No, right.
It's too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah, and
because they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And what do they do? Do they have the design of the new Boracay, for example?
Apparently, Architect Palafox has something in place. Yeah.
Okay. But it's easy to design, you know.
Yeah. Pero yung the intricate
Actual work,
details,
right.
understandable. Okay, sir.
You have to mobilize resources, right?
True. And it might take a little while. Sir, cabinet revamp, there's talk of a cabinet revamp. Have you heard about it?
I read it in the papers.
Was there talk amongst members of the cabinet?
Usually the revamp takes place maybe during election period, right? So I don't know.
But do you know if anyone's on the chopping block?
I don't know.
Or if you do, you won't tell me?
I won't tell you.
But you know. Definitely it's not you, right? Well, sir, Marawi, can we talk about that very briefly?
Yeah, sure.
You were telling me off air that 1,000 temporary houses have already been
Yes,
built, sir. And there's this fear about Marawi connecting or comparing it to the Yolanda experience.
I'm impressed with what we've done in Marawi compared to Yolanda, because Yolanda after 4 years is still in a mess, right? They talk of houses built without lights and water, etc., and poorly built. I've been there to Marawi just a few days ago, and there are already 1,000. These are, of course, not permanent housing, but better than what I've seen in Yolanda.
May kuryente po.
May kuryente, may tubig, and it's well planned. I think in a way siguro may contribution dyan si Mark Villare.
Oh, sir.
Talagang it's like a subdivision.
Sir, could you help us understand it? Like the 1,000, magkakatabi ho ba sila or did you go to separate places?
No, there are two major blocks. Magkakatabi naman. But well planned, no?
You were impressed,
road.
huh?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm impressed. And it's not you do the hollow blocks right on site. Talagang parang it's like Lego. Right?
Okay. Prefab.
Prefab.
Yun ang ginamit
That's
nila.
the way. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to construct, say, 100,000, even in school buildings, I think we should use prefab because otherwise we won't be able to meet all the requirements.
It's definitely a faster mode of building.
Faster.
I guess the question is the safety, sir.
Faster, and I think, in fact, it's safer. That way.
Also. Oh, is it? Okay.
Doon sa doon sa Yolanda nga, yung wala nga daw steel parang kawayan lang or something ginamit sa mga bahay.
So there's nothing that's really holding it together. Well, all right, sir. Thank you so much for your time. And we are just going into the second quarter. Hindi ho ba?
Yes.
Of
We're
the year.
starting the second quarter of the year.
Yeah,
Right.
and I also heard on a last note, sir, that the budget for 2019 will be passed by ready by the
We're
State of the
already
Nation.
working on it. We plan to submit it just like last year on the date of the SONA, State of the Nation.
How much is
address.
this, sir?
Well,
Are we going to 4 trillion? Abot na ho doon.
4 trillion obligation-based, but siguro around 3.7 cash-based.
I see.
All right?
Pero ang total, ganun po, 4.
Around 4.1 trillion. Yeah.
Secretary Diokno, again, thank you for your time, sir.
You're
Maraming salamat po sa inyo. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. No polar bear was born in the United Kingdom for 25 years until this cub came. That's for today's In Focus. Time now for today's In Focus here on The Source. Polar bears are among the most vulnerable animals affected by climate change. That's why it's big news in the United Kingdom when a new one is born for the first time in 25 years. Take a look. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.